Hey, this is Kenny from Kenny's Audiophile Record Reviews. Thank you very much for viewing my video. I really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe if you're new to my channel. That'll help me out as well. I really appreciate it. In this video, I'm going to give you what I think are the top 10 greatest Miles Davis jazz albums of all time. Now, this includes jazz and jazz fusion mixed together. I'm going to get to that in this video, but before that, check out those affiliate links in the description below. Some sales of Miles Davis box sets, Beatles box set. The sell those items, I get a commission for. That'll help my channel out going forward. I really appreciate it. And like I said, please like and subscribe as well. But like I said, I'm going to list my Miles Davis top 10 albums of all time. We got to remember these things are subjective. There's no right or wrong answer. We all have our personal opinions in terms of what we love and enjoy from the amazing Miles Davis catalog. So you can't get all of them to fit into a top 10. Miles Davis made a ton of great albums, so that's a very difficult task. And oh, by the way, this is my Miles Davis Kinda Blue t-shirt. It's purchased for me by my sister-in-law when she was visiting San Francisco, the Haight-Ashbury section of San Francisco. Me and my wife visited that section. Greatest historical landmark in that area of San Francisco. But before I get to my top 10, I'm going to show you some albums that did not make my top 10, and then I'm going to get to my top 10. Like I said, it's hard to get them all into a top 10. But these albums, like Miles in the Sky, there's an SACD. That did not make my top 10. There's an LP version of the album. Miles in the Sky, great album. Did not make my top 10. Neither did Nefertiti. Did not make my top 10. Pangea, a fan favorite out there, did not make my top 10. Neither did Birth of the Cool. Did not make my top 10. Roundabout Midnight, Miles Davis, didn't make my top 10. Neither did ESP. Like I said, there's a ton of great Miles Davis albums that are worthy to be in the top 10, but you can't give them fit all. Elevated Gallows, this features Miles Davis on a soundtrack. This represents 50s cool fabulously. Elevator to Gallows, great Miles Davis performance. Neither did On the Corner. This has a great rhythmic vibe and groove to it that's easy to enjoy by anyone. An amazing underrated album, Miles Davis. Miles on the Corner did not make my top 10. Tutu did not make my top 10 as well. Siesta didn't make my top 10. Neither did Blue Moods. Great 50s Miles Davis record. Blue Moods did not make my top 10. Neither did this amazing album. Working with the Miles Davis Quartet, featuring John Coltrane, tenor sax, Red Garland piano, Paul Chambers bass, Philly Joe Jones drums. This great album did not make my top 10. Working with the Miles Davis Quintet. Neither did Relaxin' with the Miles Davis Quintet. This is a reissue by Analog Productions. This does not make my top 10. That shows you how many great albums that Miles Davis produced over years. Miles Plus 19 didn't make my top 10. This is the original cover before it was, at least I think it's original pressing too, or close to it. This album did not make my top 10. Like I said, this was the original cover of the album, and they changed it to this cover. Miles Ahead Plus 19. This didn't make my top 10. This is a favorite of mine. I love this album to death. Miles Smiles features a second great quintet. Did not make my top 10. I love the way Tony Williams is jamming on this record. It's great Miles Davis second quintet record. Neither did Bag's Groove with the all-star cast of Sonny Rollins, Milt Jackson, Thelonious Monk, Horace Silver, Percy Heath, Kenny Clark. This amazing album did not make my top 10. Like I said, and if I failed to mention this one, Nefertiti, this didn't make my top 10 either. But like I said, he made so many great albums, it's very difficult to get them all in one top 10. It really is. But these are my top 10, what I think are the best top 10 Miles Davis albums. And I should say this, I can't play music on my videos because of copyright issues, my video can be removed. But please leave your top 10, top 2, top 3, whatever your top 10, what you think are top 10 Miles Davis albums, whether it's jazz or jazz fusion, in the comment section below. But I'm going to start off with number 10. and that is Steamin' with the Miles Davis Quintet. This was originally released recorded in 1956, released in 1961. This is the Analog Productions version of the record. This represents Miles Davis' 1950s jazz fabulously as it was recorded in 1956. You should check this out. Steamin' with the Miles Davis Quintet at number 10. I love this album. Cookin' with the Miles Davis Quintet. There's an Analog Productions reissue of the record. Cookin' with the Miles Davis Quintet. And this album, Philly Joe Jones is just jamming on drums, at least on one of the songs. I forgot which one. I believe this is the album. This is just an amazing Miles Davis 1950s album. This was originally released in 1956, reissued by Analog Productions. Cookin' with the Miles Davis Quintet at number 9. At number 8, this is an orchestral masterpiece. Under the direction of Gil Evans, Miles Davis, Porgy and Bess, jazz orchestral music. Gosh, close to his best. Miles Davis, Gil Evans, Miles Davis, Porgy and Bess at number 8. At number 7, this very well could be the best Miles Davis, the best of the Miles Davis second quintet. Please leave your Miles Davis second quintet favorite album in the comment section below, but I think this very well is the best one. This is Miles Davis, The Sorcerer. This is a post-bop album released in 1967. The band is just tight playing together. You know, everybody jamming on this album. Miles Davis playing, gosh, at his peak around this period. Miles Davis, The Sorcerer, with the beautiful Cicely Tyson on the cover. Released in 1967 at number 7, Miles Davis, The Sorcerer. This is a modal jazz album, bebop album, Miles Davis, Milestones. This is at number 6, issued in 1958. My favorite Miles Davis song is perhaps Miles. I think on some albums they have the name is Milestones, but on this album the song Miles is perhaps my favorite Miles Davis song. It's a great jam. And this album features Julian Cannonball Adderley, saxophone, John Coltrane, saxophone, Ray Garland, piano, Paul Chambers, bass, and Philly Joe Jones, drums. Milestones. Miles Davis coming in at number 6, issued in 1958. At number 5, it is what many think is Miles Davis's first jazz fusion album. You can debate that, but this is Miles Davis coming in at number 5, I should say, In a Silent Way. Now this has, in terms of his jazz fusion, compared to what will come later, this is very light in nature, very subtle in nature in terms of jazz fusion. It really is. It features fabulously Joe Zawinul on keyboards, who went on to form Weather Report. Joe Zawinul also played with Cannonball Adderley, the Cannonball Adderley Quintet, but Miles Davis in a Silent Way. It's a great album. And for those of you who don't like that hard jazz fusion, which I do, this is a great alternative. Miles Davis in a Silent Way, issued in 1969 at number 5. At number 4, this is Miles Davis, Jack Johnson, issued in 1971, a great jazz rock fusion album. I recently purchased Miles Davis, Jack Johnson Sessions CD set. I haven't got to it yet. It's still sealed. Hopefully I get to it soon. But if you like rock and jazz, this is a great album to listen to. Jack Johnson, a tribute to Jack Johnson, perhaps the most underrated athlete of all time, great boxer. This great album features Miles Davis trumpet, Steve Grossman soprano sax, John McLaughlin electric guitar, Michael Henderson electric bass, Billy Cobham drums. Miles Davis, Jack Johnson, issued in 1971 at number 4, a fabulous example of jazz fusion. And number 3, a fabulous example of orchestral jazz, Miles Davis, Sketches of Spain, his collaboration with the great, underrated, and innovative Gil Evans. Sketches of Spain. This album is one of Miles Davis albums I perhaps listen to the most. It's close to top. I just love the orchestration and the playing of Miles Davis infused with the orchestration of Gil Evans. Miles Davis Sketches of Spain is an amazing album, and this is number 3 on my list, issued in 1960, the year I was born. At number 2 is the album behind me, Miles Davis in a silent, Kinda Blue, I should say, Kinda Blue. This is a mobile fidelity 45 RPM version of the set, and this one is a Analog Productions UHQR 45 RPM version of the set. Both sound great. The UHQR sounds the best in my opinion. This version I purchased at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame probably a decade ago. Me and my wife visited the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Still has a price tag on it. The greatest selling jazz album of all time, from what I understand. Features an all-star cast of Paul Chambers, Jimmy Cobb, John Coltrane, Julian Cannonball Adderley, Bill Evans, Wynton Kelly. It's just a masterpiece of a jazz album. It really is. And you can understand why it's the greatest selling jazz album of all time. Sold a lot of records and a boatload of money for Columbia and Sony. Miles Davis, Kinda Blue, coming in at number 2. That album was released, I believe, in 1959, 1960. Released in 1959. At number 1, now this album, Miles Davis album, I enjoy the most. I think is the most creative in my opinion. Some might say maybe it's Kinda Blue or something like that. Or one of his earliest albums. But I love his work on this album with Tio Macero. Also did a lot of editing to get this album the way it ended up being. Miles Davis, Bitches Brew. The jazz fusion masterpiece issued in 1970 with an all-star cast. This album, in my opinion, is Miles Davis' greatest work. And I know that's highly debatable, but for me, in terms of music, I love and enjoy the music I love listening to. This album never gets tired with me. I love the rock element. I love the jazz element. I love the marriage of the two together. And I think it was fabulously and creatively done by Miles Davis and his vision. It says on here, Miles Davis, Bitches Brew, Directions in Music by Miles Davis. And that's a great way to put this album. Miles Davis, I think, is the greatest Miles Davis album ever made, in my opinion. That might be controversial for some of you out there who like the acoustic side of Miles Davis. I get that. But to me, that is a great compromise between rock and jazz. And I love acoustic jazz. Don't get me wrong. Otherwise, I wouldn't have these records. But Miles Davis, Bitches Brew, is number 1 on my list. Like I said, these things are subjective. There's no right or wrong answer. So please leave your comments in the comments section below. I really appreciate that. I enjoy reading the comments. I may not answer them all, but I try to read them all the best I can. And I learn a lot from my audience and their comments. Thank you very much for viewing, and thank you for your comments. I really appreciate that. But please like and subscribe if you're new to my channel. Again, check out those affiliate links in the description section of my video. I get a commission for those sales. That'll help my channel out going forward. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much for viewing my video. God bless, strong love, and more importantly, please, it's more important than the music or anything else. Please keep the peace worldwide. Thank you very much.